Thank you for joining us, well, on this kind of dark evening for our final Tech Talk of the year. Before I kick things off, I did want to kind of pass the mic off to one of our esteemed event sponsors for this year, just to provide a quick update. So Julie, I'll give the mic to you.
Thank you, Paula. Welcome, everybody. This is my first Women in Technology event, so I'm a newcomer. Here we are. My name is Julie Peach, and I work with Complete Legal. I'm their new account manager in our office in Mission. So I was their sales coordinator, and in October, I'm now their account manager. So I'm super excited about my new role, and I just wanted to thank you all ahead of time for giving me a minute to take the mic here from Paula before this awesome TED Talk starts. But if you're not familiar with Complete Legal, we basically support everybody in the litigation process. So we do all the traditional paper services. So we do printing for trials, we do trial blow-ups, we do blowbacks, we can scan, we can make copies. We're basically Kinko's on steroids for attorneys and paralegals, kind of how I like to look at it. So we do lots of things for cases and trials and kind of try to make paralegals and law firms run easily during trials and know they can just kind of count on us. We do things at night, we do things on the weekend. So that's kind of been our thing. That's probably about 50% of our revenue. And then the other thing we do is e-discovery. So we do forensics, we do e-discovery, we do managed review, we do hosting. So I just had a quick question. Raise your hand if you have a cell phone. Oh my gosh, you do, this is so great. So raise your hand if you think all your clients and people you work with probably have one too. Yeah. And then the same thing for laptops. We all have a computer. Mm-hmm. So obviously we're here for Women in Technology. Complete Legal, we do a lot with technology. So my little sales thing for you tonight, because I'm not salesy. Like I said, I've been doing this since October 1, and they said, oh, we want you to speak. I'm like, that's cool. Hope these people are nice. And you are. So basically, we can retrieve all the data from cell phones and laptops and hard drives and all the different things. So we get cases and people calling us every day like, hey, they said they got in a wreck and this car hit them. Can you pull their cell phone and see if they were on their phone at the time of that accident? Oh. Boom, they were. And so we can do those kind of collections remote, or we can gather them in our office if needed, but we can just do it all remotely now. Yes?
Can you collect encrypted data? Like, can you still understand the encrypted data?
Most of the time. So each case is a little different, each phone is a little different, depends how many updates it's had. But most likely, yes. But I can't give a full answer, it just kind of depends on the data. But we can definitely try. So we have an awesome team. We have our forensics lab is in our office in Mission, and we have the most incredible team. So things like that question, my team, they know it like all day long. Me, I just kind of know it. So I am the account manager, and I try to get all the answers for you, and then they take the technology and just do all the things that I don't quite know how to do yet. But we can, we had somebody call the other day and they were like, we have a hard drive, can you make a copy of this for us? And we need all this data hosted. And do you have anybody that can then review the data for us? And I'm like, oh yes, we can do all these things. So just wanted to put it out there that if you ever have a need or if you have any questions like that, we can do any of these things between hosting data, going over data, making copies, collecting forensics, just any of those things that you might come across. We'd be happy to help anytime. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And here you go, Paula.
Thank you, Julie. Again, round of applause. Really love to be able to connect with different community members. So again, reach out to Julie if you ever need any support or assistance in that matter. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and kind of kick off the primary role of our event for tonight. Again, as I mentioned earlier, this is our final Tech Talk for the year, focused on artificial intelligence. Really loved the opportunity to connect with everyone this whole year. And so if you're interested to stay connected with us, because we have a lot of great programming in the works for next year, feel free to either connect with one of our esteemed program managers, Liz and Beth over there, myself, Lulu, or again, if you're a little bit antisocial like myself, we have a Slack QR code. You can feel free to connect with us there as well. So we have a lot of great programming coming up in 2025, so keep on the lookout. And so with that being said, we'll go ahead and kind of start off with our esteemed panelists. All of the individuals on this stage have kind of various experiences with artificial intelligence. And so instead of myself providing some introductions, we will kind of kick off the first question with them with just a quick introduction on name, title, what they do on a day-to-day basis, and their connection and or just experience with AI in general. So I'll go ahead and pass the torch over to Tracy.
Oh gosh.
Absolutely.
All of the
Gotta
microphones
love
are different.
technologies.
Thank you. Okay, is it on?
Yeah.
Okay, there we are. Hi there, I am Tracy Hawkins. I'm also known as Tracy the Safety Lady, and I get to travel the country talking about, is it not on, not loud?
If you have your phone on you, put it in airplane mode. Sometimes, supposedly, the cell phones mess with the.
My phone?
I just turned mine off, so I wonder if there was interference.
Okay, there, is that better? Oh, all it took was a little hit. Okay, so speaking of airplane mode, I just got in last night from Boston where I had an opportunity to speak about AI, cybersecurity as a risk in the real estate world. But I get to speak across the country, teaching people how to use AI, generative AI in a safe manner. That means there's no such thing as privacy. And I also talk about how cyber criminals are using the tools. They're creating deepfake voice impersonation and their social engineering. So that is my most recent passion. I get to write about it, and I host the country's only real estate safety podcast, and of course AI comes up in every conversation.
Testing. I always wanted to do that. So I'm Jennifer McKeithen. I'm a Salesforce developer at Shamrock Trading Corporation. I hold 8 Salesforce certifications, 2 of which are in AI. I guess my involvement in the AI space, since this is kind of like really new for everybody, I would call myself an early adopter. So like with Dreamforce, Salesforce has their Dreamforce conference every year. I got to do a lot of the early workshops, and yeah, so it's super cool. And I use AI just to make my job easier, to do my job better, and make my life easier. So that's me.
My name is Ljupka Schwantes. I am an e-discovery project manager for a law firm called Armstrong Teasdale. I actually have worked very closely with Julie's team at Complete Legal on various different cases over my 15-year career. I would say that my involvement directly in AI, believe it or not, even though in the legal world we call ourselves the dinosaurs of adoption of technology, and a lot of lawyers are still working with paper, but AI actually existed in my field for about 20 years. It's just currently we have generative AI, and in my field it's discriminative AI, and it's called continuous active learning. So we've had an AI product in a software platform that I use to assist attorneys with reviewing very large amounts of data. Meaning whatever Julie, through the forensics team, collects, that data comes into my platform that I run with the lawyers in my office. And so right now, there are generative AI products that are coming out in our space as well. They're just still kind of in that beta testing phase, and I'm very fortunate that I actually work with software developers to do that beta testing. So that's kind of been my AI involvement in my field, in the legal field.
No, that's great to hear. And I actually want to dive a little bit deeper into that and kind of get your perspective overall just on the different ways in which AI is being used. I know for a lot of you all, it looks very different depending on the industry that you're in, depending on your different disciplines. So could you maybe dive into more of kind of your personal experiences, your organization's experiences, as far as how AI is being used, the different use cases, and just how it looks overall?
I can tell you, again, I remember being a paralegal 15 years ago and would haul 15 boxes, in a federal courthouse every single day, right? And so just as a very simple example, what we're dealing with right now is a lawyer used to have to literally what we call put eyes on page by page, right? And the way that the easiest to describe it to people right now, in the way that AI technology works in my field, is we call it the Spotify of the legal world. So if I choose a song from Johnny Cash and the next one is Dolly Parton and it's kind of a recommended one, that's how AI works in my field. Meaning, if a document that a lawyer looks and it's responsive, the actual algorithm will search the entire, let's say, 2 million documents database, and it'll find the next best document. And so instead of a lawyer spending 4 years on 2 million files, we're now cutting down that time to maybe 2 weeks, which is not just a significant time on their time, but the biggest cost in the legal world is the attorney's time to clients. So this is saving an insane amount of not just time again, but money as well. And with generative AI, it's even more increased now. So that's kind of a very short AI use case that, again, we've had now for over 20 years. But with generative AI, that process is actually improving it even more, because now, from a generative AI perspective, we're having actual prompts that are being generated. And I'm only speaking in the document review space. From a legal to research perspective, there's a product called Hardy AI that's cutting down the research time for associates, for example, where they used to have to go to a platform and find all these citations to support their motions. And right now, the AI product is doing that for them. So it's really exciting.
No, that's really great to hear. And I'm actually interested, similar to how you were saying, it should just help you all gain a lot of efficiencies and really cut down the amount of time and effort and work it takes for your staff to just do a lot of the mundane tasks and help ramp up the results piece. Have you kind of seen that experience similar for you, Jennifer, just in your organization on how AI is being used? Or just, again, you mentioned personally using it for your own benefit.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So for me, it has, as she said, it's saved a lot of time in developing. I can have the AI help me find solutions a little bit faster than just Googling. I still Google, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to be able to do that and have it check my code. I can have it help me test my code. Yeah, that I would say my biggest advantage is saving time. I can just do my work faster. And I use it in my personal life for a lot of things too. A great use case I love in my personal life. So I am bilingual, so I do speak French as well, but I'm learning how to write better. And so AI is super helpful there because it can help correct my grammar and everything like that. So yeah, so both in my professional life and my personal life, I would say biggest saver is time.
No, absolutely. And I agree with you. I think a lot of people, at least nowadays, has been able to see a lot of those benefits just from a cost saving or time saving measure. One thing that doesn't get talked about a lot, and so I'm interested to kind of get your perspective, Tracy, is on the challenges of AI. I know for a lot of people, you do see those benefits, and as I mentioned before, just time, money, and effort. Could you maybe speak to the potential challenges that you've seen for people adopting it? I know you mentioned deepfake and a lot of the work you do around training in the real estate. Could you just kind of touch on it more?
Right, and can you all hear me? For some reason it doesn't, I can't. Okay, so not just in the real estate world, though that's my primary world. Who here has heard of Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V? Okay, one thing that I've heard him say is that his employees no longer Google, and I heard you say that, Jennifer. He says now they're using ChatGPT instead of Googling. One thing that I have to warn you about, and I know you know this, you have to fact check it. It has a tendency to hallucinate, and another word for hallucinate is lie. So it makes up facts, and it does it so well and so convincingly. So I have to urge people, my presentation is called The Good AI, The Good, The Misunderstood, The Cyber Dangers, and Solutions, because I can't be the doom and gloom girl just talking about here's the bad things. So I have to talk about the good ways to use AI, and that includes using it to create content. And of course, you have to fact check it. Who here has heard of the grandparent scam? Okay, so for those, most hands went up, and this was around even before generative AI hit the scene. I remember it from years and years and years ago. So that's when a criminal or cyber criminal will call someone, typically an older person, and say, this is your granddaughter, this is your grandson, I'm in trouble, or I'm sick and I need you to send bail money. By the way, don't tell mom and dad. So the goal was for them to send money to bail them out or to get them help if they're in the hospital or whatever the situation is, and it worked. And if you Google grandparent scam, you'll see so many senior citizens who have lost thousands of dollars, their life savings, their retirement due to this. So imagine generative AI entering the scene. People can take 3 seconds of your voice and create a voice impersonation. And I've had people say, when I answer the phone, I don't say anything because I don't want them to hear my voice and duplicate it. Guess what? Your outgoing voicemail message has your voice on it. They can use that. If you're online and you do any kind of video, they can use that. So they're taking actual real voices and they're making phone calls in the real voice. So in the real world, I know you mentioned a case study, an executive of a company got a phone call from his CEO. His CEO told him to wire $242,000, and he did it because he always did it. And then he called, he said, I did what you asked me to do, and the CEO said, what are you talking about? Turns out it was a voice deep fake. They will never get that $242,000 back. So my biggest challenge is just letting people know that it exists. You can't believe phone calls. You must have a code word. In your family and in your business, you can't believe what you see. You cannot believe what you read. So raising awareness is what I'm passionate about.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I 100% agree with you. Fraud has definitely become a challenge just with AI, just with the speed of technology, the speed at which you can get information out there, and for a lot of criminals, the speed at which they can acquire that information. Are there any other potential kind of challenges, Jennifer, or stuff that you can think of?
I would like to probably cover more from a company perspective, like what the challenges are that I kind of have seen. And there's quite a few legal cases that are out there right now that cover different types of situations. And I kind of had to put my notes together because there are quite a few. When it comes to the hallucinations and that leading to misinformation, there are already lawsuits out there that have been put together by various different individuals that have been affected by these hallucinations. And I can tell you one of the cases that's prevalent in the legal world is a lawyer who went to ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT to give him legal citations that had no backing at all. And so he actually put those in a legal briefing, an absolute no-no in the legal world. He not only, when he was challenged by the judge that this is completely fake, he doubled down and they actually put together screenshots of his ChatGPT log and claiming that no, this is real. Long story short, huge fines for him personally. His client lost his case. So again, this had real world implications. That's 1 out of 3 cases that we know that has happened so far. The other one is there was a defamation lawsuit actually against a guy who someone had made a false report about him being part of, like a anti-Semitic group, and put that together in like a press release. And so he actually filed a defamation suit against the company that did that, but also against ChatGPT, because that's where this person got the information from, and that lawsuit is still in place. The biggest one from a copyright perspective is George R.R. Martin filed a lawsuit against ChatGPT because they, without his consent, took his work along with 15 other authors, and so they're filing a copyright lawsuit that this was done completely illegally without their, not just without their permission, but they were not compensated at all for that. That case is still in process. And then I think from I have a few more here that I'm trying to remember now, but this one is a big one with the, there was a company called Stability AI, so it's Getty Images, and Stability AI took all of their images, again, that were copyrighted without their permission, so there are multiple claims that they have in that lawsuit, so this is more of a company-to-company kind of issue. There was another one a really scary one, in my opinion, where a security company was using pictures and videos of just people out in the world from cameras, and they were selling that information to police officers. So that was a huge privacy concern. And again, this is an ongoing lawsuit here in the United States as well. So I've already mentioned copyright, patent issues, data security, data privacy issues as well. And again, these cases are now just coming out in our court system in the US. We are not the exception. These cases are happening all over the world. And also, therefore, there are so many different types of laws and regulations. The EU AI Act is probably the main one that's come out right now that are trying to address these issues.
No, absolutely. You want to provide some additional?
Oh, yeah, I was going to add just a little bit, just from a user perspective. Oh, yeah, sure. Is it not on? How do I do this? Hello? Oh, it was on mute. It's like really tiny print. Okay. No, I was just saying from like a user's perspective, I think it's muted again.
Do you have, is it a green light?
It's not green.
Here. Something's wrong with it.
So, as a user, you don't want to just sit there and copy and paste whatever it spits out at you. You do want to fact check, and even me as a developer, I have to do that too, because even just the other day, I was working on some code and it generated it, and I was like, wait a minute. No, I don't need that. And it's like, oh, you're absolutely right. You don't need that. So you do want to do that. Be careful with the hallucinations, but also with your prompts. You want to write prompts that are effective, yes, but you also want to write prompts that protect your own personal information. And if you're like me, using it for your work, you want to protect your company's information. Don't put specifics about your company. Definitely do not just copy and paste your company's data into that. And like me, I'm careful even with metadata. I don't even put my company's metadata in there. I kind of mask it in a way, like I'll write the prompt to where, I'll say object X and it won't be like the actual object name. But yeah, definitely hallucinations are real, and getting like your data stolen, your company's data stolen, that's all very real. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. And I 100% agree with you. There is truly a real risk in just having all of that data accessible to the different, AI models out there. And you kind of segued into my next question, just touching in on the risks and how you can go about preventing them, just from a consumer to consumer basis. Fact checking, of course, is definitely a really good kind of way to manage the risk, as well as just preventing or limiting the amount of data that you're providing to these models. Tracy, and feel free to chime in as well. Do you have any other recommendations on how to manage the risk overall?
Right. Awareness is probably the number one thing, just knowing that the risk exists. So you get the email, and the emails in the past have been these poorly written emails, and you look at them and you say, there's no way I'm falling for that, right? Enter ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, all of them. So just like we use them to create well-written, good content, cyber criminals are doing it too. So now they're writing these phishing emails. So you'll get, and I have an email box full of them, where it says, you have paid this invoice, click here if you disagree, or call us if you want to dispute it. So now they're so well written, and we're looking at them thinking, okay, this is a real company, this is not a scammer. So then we're picking up the phone and we're calling, and they're saying, give us a credit card number and we'll just put it back on your account. Or they'll say, click this link to dispute it. You click the link and it is unleashing malware onto your computer. So most people who are not aware of it don't think twice about it. So that's why my work is so important. I am saying you can't believe what you see. You can't believe what you hear. We talked about the voice deepfakes. You cannot believe what you read anymore because they're so well written. And just another quick study, and I know case studies are the way people really understand things. In Japan, there was a company, the executive of the company got an email saying, hey, I need you to click on this and wire some money. It's a secret transaction. He said, no way am I falling for that. Then he got an invitation to a Zoom meeting. He attended the Zoom meeting and he's looking at the screen and he's looking at the faces of executives in his company. Someone gave him the directive to wire $25 million. He did what he was told to do. He called and he said, hey, I completed the transactions, we're good to go. The executive said, what are you talking about? Everyone on that screen was a deep fake. So it was a video Zoom deep fake. It happened again in Florida. There are more and more cases. So if he didn't know to question that, it's going to happen more and more. So I am saying you can't believe what you see, even if it's on the screen. You can't believe what you read, even if it's well written. You can't believe what you hear, even if it's the voice of someone you know. So I'd say awareness, raising awareness, getting the training. I talk to end users because those are the people, all of us, everyday people are the ones who can click on a link or who can answer the phone call and give the wrong information. And in companies and corporations, your end user, the customer service person, the receptionist, people on the front line, that's who's going to click a link. Talk about Jackson County, the courthouse situation. One employee clicked the link and unleashed all of that. So awareness, it cannot be understated. So that's my biggest advice is get training, awareness training, and mine contains show and tell because you don't believe it until you see it.
Absolutely.
I just want to add again from a company perspective of some of the policies that you probably should have in place already to kind of protect yourself from these kind of situations, especially with employees. Similar to what you were talking about at Samsung, one of the C-level executives took his meeting notes and audio, I should say, and went into an AI tool to transcribe that for him. Again, without realizing this is all company confidential information. At the same place, there was a developer who took the code, put it into a ChatGPT. What a lot of people don't realize is that once you put data into these large language models, you cannot untrain the model and you cannot retrieve that data outside of the model. You can't then claim privacy to it. So not only are that data is now in there, Tracy knows this really well, hackers can use that data for social engineering, can use that data to infiltrate the security system that you might have at your company. So one of the important things is you need to have a records retention policy as a company. You need to have a bring your own device policy. What does that mean? If you're telling your employees that they are going to be working on their private cell phones and working for your company, there has to be some protections in place and also a policy of what they're allowed or not allowed to do. But then you definitely need to have a social media, but also an AI use policy. Like how are your employees using, AI, and what are they allowed to do or not to do? So it's like, again, if a company, or I should say an employee does mess up, there's already a policy in place to kind of protect the company. From an insurance perspective, companies definitely need to not only have the regular liability errors and emissions insurance, but there's actual AI insurance policies that are coming out right now that they should be looking into. There's also, if you are a company that's trying to engage an AI tool, right, you need to ask this company multiple questions. How are you protecting the data privacy of our customers or our team? Are you using kind of discrimination awareness tools, meaning there's so much algorithmic bias in these new tools. Amazon is one example where they actually scraped their hiring tool. They saw that the tool was actively rejecting women who were applying for their jobs because their data was all male software developers. So the actual training data, like what training data are you actually using? You need to investigate that, right, internally. And then you constantly not just have to check that data, but you need to audit it for bias as well. If you're talking about an AI tool that you're using, for example, in a manufacturing facility, do you have a business continuity policy? If this AI tool somehow messes up an entire factory, what are you going to do about that? So we're thinking about, you know, how do companies, there's a lot that companies would need to do to protect themselves. And even from like a data privacy perspective, it's the best idea is to actually engage a legal professional so that you can set these policies up for yourself internally from the get-go, so you have a more proactive rather than reactive approach as to how you're dealing with these issues that arise from using AI tools.
Yeah, I would agree with both of y'all 100%. And, you know, from an employee's perspective, definitely get the training. Even if your company doesn't tell you to learn how to use AI, how to use it effectively, how to use it safely, I would strongly urge you to, you know, whatever industry you're in, learn how to use AI in your daily job. Something you're talking about data privacy. Something I really like about Salesforce is like they have what's called a zero retention data policy. So when the LLM, it can use your prompt, but then that they have agreements with, like, say OpenAI and Amazon, that the prompt is destroyed afterward, and so it's not stored, and their LLMs are not trained on it. So that's an example of like one thing Salesforce is doing to mitigate that. Yeah, but that would be the biggest thing I would want to emphasize is take the initiative yourself and learn how to use AI safely and effectively.
No, that's a great point. I think it can be really challenging, especially nowadays with how fast technology is moving in AI, on how to protect yourself. And I know you guys have already touched on it, a couple of strategies, including just, again, educating yourself, really understanding the different legal implications, how organizations can manage their risk. Could you maybe dive a little bit deeper into that on the specifics of, say, from a policy procedure standpoint, you individually, if you're looking to protect yourself against those risks, what kind of strategies or things would you be looking to see, say, in a policy, or again, like Jennifer mentioned with the record retention piece, touching base with those AI model organizations, what other kind of strategies would you want to see there?
Are we talking again from a company or an individual perspective?
Both.
Julie's probably going to agree with me on this because we work with metadata all the time. And this is the example that I always give to people. And when I gave a talk about this, like I input it into ChatGPT asking an stupidly simple question of like, how many R's are in the word strawberry? And it came back with 2. And then I rewrote my question and asked it, how many R letters are in the word strawberries? And it came back with the accurate answer. So from an individual perspective, how am I asking this tool to give that prompt back to me? So it's like, can I educate myself enough to actually know how to ask the question to get an accurate answer? That's number one. And then I took that same document, that same answer, and I put it in a Word document, and then I saved that Word document, and let's say I'm using that in my company. That now puts an insane amount of information of metadata, because the chat log from ChatGPT is not going to be saved in this Word document. The information that I'm putting it in, that I'm claiming to be accurate, is, so responsibility falls on me. So let's say this is a company document that I'm now claiming to be accurate, and I'm sending it to my CEO and whatever. And now that document is part of litigation, which is what Julie's company and my law firm deals with. When we pull the metadata, the custodian of that document is going to be you. And so there's a specific, what we call a hash value, it is your unique digital fingerprint that you left not just on a Word document, an audio file, whatever you're engaging with in the world of electronic data. And when it push comes to shove, the responsibility of how, again, Julie's company and I are trying to investigate this claim, that responsibility, again, is going to come back personally on you. So whether it's from a company perspective or an individual perspective, again, making sure that information that you're putting out is accurate, because ChatGPT is not your expert witness to prove that you're not lying, right? It's very important to have that trail, so to speak, right? Because ultimately that digital fingerprint is you. That information is gonna come back to you. So being really careful about the questions that you're asking from these AI tools, but also like, how are you using that information and are you actually fact checking? I do know that Claude now is a product that will actually reference that information. So like whatever it generates for you, you can actually go to the sites or website that it cites. So that's, again, a great tool. This morning, I was at another breakfast and one of the ladies said, you know what, it cited a certain website from Harvard, and I actually went to the website and the website was non-existent. So
Wow.
even though it cited the website, actually click on it and make sure that it's real and accurate, that it's actually producing real information that's out there, right? So diligence, really, very important.
And yeah, I would second that. Just, your company should have an AI policy. If they don't have one yet, they will probably pretty soon. Make sure you read it and you follow it. But again, don't just rely on it. It really, as I just can't emphasize enough, you are the director of your future, of your life. Take charge.
Okay. And speaking of tools that cite sources, Perplexity is probably one of the best ones too. It will cite the source, and again, you have to fact check the source. And let's go back when you talk about governance. So let's go back. Sam Altman, who is a co-founder along with Elon Musk of OpenAI, ChatGPT's founding company, and some other AI leaders went to Congress. This was right back after ChatGPT came on the scene, before everyone started getting into it. And then they realized how dangerous it could be, how people were able to access information, not only regular people, but cyber criminals. And they said, wait a minute, slow down. Congress, will you please help us get some governance policies in place? It's like the cat was out of the barn, whatever the saying is. It was almost too late. And they're saying, help us put some guardrails in place. So to your point about governance, organizations and companies, you must have a policy. I had an association say, Tracy, let's do an assessment. Let's see where we are. So we did an assessment, and by the time they were done, we were looking at all things cybersecurity, and of course I have to add AI into the picture. So by the time I was asking questions like, do you have a password or a passphrase or a passkey policy? Do you have two-factor authentication? What is the process if your people want to use AI? Who is giving them the safety policies? Who is telling them, like was referenced here, not to put proprietary company data into the tools, because that is public information? And after we got done with the assessment, her eyes were gigantic, and it's like, what now? Look at our liability, look at our risk. So that's why every company, every organization must have, first of all, an assessment to see where you are. And secondly, you must have a policy, especially an AI policy, because that's where you're going to tell the employees what you've both said, that this information is not private. Otherwise, if you don't tell them, they don't know. This is where you tell them the limitations and what they can and cannot do with the tools, because if you don't tell them, they don't know. So definitely having a governance policy in place. And then really quickly, families must have an AI policy or cybersecurity policy as well, especially when we're talking about those voice calls. Everybody in the family, it's not just grandparents anymore, it's everyone. A mom got a phone call and this guy said, I have kidnapped your daughter. She could hear her daughter's voice in the background. I've kidnapped her. You're going to have to pay ransom. So she's just like all of us. That's my daughter's voice. She was up in arms. Something told her, wait, call your daughter on her phone. So she called her daughter answered, hey mom. She said, are you okay? I'm fine, what's going on? It was a voice deep fake. So every single one of us is susceptible to getting a phone call that could be a deep fake. The answer is a code word. Every family, every business must have a code word. So if someone calls, now they're asking for money, and that's a little different. They're asking for personal information. If they don't know the code word, you are to hang up the phone. This is businesses and this is personal. So you have to have a personal family policy, and you must have a business corporate policy, cybersecurity, AI policy.
And I wanted to add to that too. So I actually, because I had taken the initiative and learned myself how to safely and effectively use AI, when my company's AI policy came out, I was already doing all that. But if I hadn't been, I mean, I could have like put my company at risk and here's the thing to remember, everyone's using AI. They're already using it. You know, the cat is out of the bag, as you said. So, you know, you can't really, if your company doesn't have an AI policy yet, don't wait around for it. So that was a big thing I just wanted to add.
Oh, no, absolutely. Having all of those safeguards in place can definitely help to just protect you overall. And as Jennifer mentioned, and this will kind of segue into my next question, as far as everybody is using AI, and for somebody who maybe potentially wants to turn this into a career, could we, I'm interested to get you all's take again on what potential opportunities are out there in the job market now that AI is being used more widely. Again, it's been around for a while, but it's definitely something that is picking up speed as far as organizations and their adaptation of it in general. So can you maybe just speak to the job market as far as it looks like for AI, and then what potential opportunities you see for this?
In the legal world perspective, certifications are everything. For us in the e-discovery world, there's a company called Relativity, and so they just came out. They're one of the kind of early adopters of generative AI, and they just came out with 2 products called Relativity Air for Review and for Privilege. And so there's quite a few certifications you can take that will kind of help you get ahead on that side. There's also a AIGP, which is an artificial intelligence governance protection, and that is a certification for someone who kind of has an information governance in-house, so to speak, role in a company, that they can take that certification to kind of not excel, but put themselves ahead of the rest of maybe the candidate pool. But I'm not familiar with marketing or other companies, so I'll let them answer that.
I would say start with what do you do now, and how can you use AI in your current role? How can you use it effectively? How can you use it safely? And just use it to become really good at what you do. Now, if you're looking to make a change in your career, look into, okay, where do you want to go? And how can AI help you in that role? Because I think AI is going to affect pretty much everybody. You know, just our day-to-day work, it's already changed, it's going to continue to change. So I would look at that. If you wanted to get into specifically AI, I would say, as she mentioned, certifications, learn about data. I mean, you're not going to have good AI if you don't have good data. Yeah, it's a very broad question, but I would start with, what do you do now? And then, you know, how can you get better? I would say learn how to write prompts. I mean, it seems like, oh, it's such a simple thing, it's not that hard. Oh, you can get really, really technical with prompts, and the better the prompt you write, the better the response you're going to get. Yes, I would start with that. That's what I would do.
And I agree with the training. You must get professional training. And the prompting is, of course, is the key. So here's what I did. I have been in the safety business for 29 years. So when ChatGPT came on the scene, that would have been November of 2022, everyone lost their minds, including me. I could not stop. I couldn't stop learning more and more about it. So what I did is like Jennifer said, how do you incorporate that into what you're already doing? So I'm already talking to people about safety. I'm already talking about cybersecurity. And my question is, how do I add this whole generative AI into my cybersecurity conversation. And that's when I started talking about the good parts of it, the bad parts of it, how cyber criminals are using it and how to use it safely. So doing that helped me expand my career opportunities. So last year I got an opportunity to speak from DC to California, this year Vegas, Nevada. I just got back from Boston, Montana, Wyoming. So because of that, I've been doing the cybersecurity keynotes. So that expanded my career. I also happen to be a writer, so I write for a lot of publications. With the help of ChatGPT, I am now a co-author of a few books, one of them being a cybersecurity ebook. So we wrote that together. But the thing you have to remember if you want to be an author, and so many of us, and I'm a writer before ChatGPT and all of them came along, but using the tools helped me refine my writing, helps me flow better, it just helped me be a better writer. You cannot copy and paste. I know you mentioned that. Cannot copy and paste for a number of reasons. Number one, fact checking. So if you copy and paste, you're going to have some false information in there. You're going to get in trouble, like Lulu mentioned as well. And then secondly, copyright. There are no real clear laws or rules about copywriting yet, and you can't copyright what you didn't create. So you cannot, I think my books are great, but I can't copyright them because who created it? Did I create it because of my prompt? Did ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity create it? So I can't copyright it no matter how wonderful I think it is. So I am now a published author because of the tools. So I learned how to use them to create content. And I am also a keynote speaker in an area that people weren't thinking about before. So I kind of created a little niche area, and not a lot of people talk about a generative AI, especially in a business building situation. I talk to a lot of salespeople, so I'm saying, here's how you use the tools to create content. And I want you to create content that 100% of every adult on the face of the earth cares about. All of us care about personal safety, home security, protecting ourselves, our families, and our possessions, right? So I'm saying create that content, the social media content that you're being told that you must create. Create your email marketing, create content based on safety and security. That doesn't go to any spam folder. Who's going to delete information that you're sharing with them how to be safe and secure? No one. So use it to create content. So I come at it from a different angle, how AI has helped me create different paths. And to wrap up, a lot of people are afraid that AI is going to take their jobs, and they're trying. Elon Musk is trying to build this creation that will be better than humans. So a lot of companies are trying to replace us. I'm saying use the tools and use it to enhance what you're doing. And no AI can compete they can't compete with me. I mean, one day it may happen, but they can't do what I'm doing right now. So I'm saying same thing for you all. Use the tools to make yourself even better than ever. You guys remember the $6 million man? Some of you don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so use the tools to be better than ever and to compete. They can't compete with you, with what you have here, and to use the tools to enhance you. So that's my advice as far as creating a career out of it, is to embrace it.
I just want to add two things that came to mind. One is one great kind of, not tool, but link that I use on LinkedIn is actually, it's called There's an AI for That. And it'll actually kind of give you an overview of all the new AI tools that are coming out constantly. And then the second part is get involved in local organizations. I wanted to mention the Kansas City AI Club. And so when you start networking with people who are using the tools actively, you will be able to kind of get an idea of like, what is the AI market like right now? What are people doing? How are, what kind of jobs are coming out of AI? So being around other people who are using the tools consistently will kind of give you a better idea maybe of the path of career that you want to take.
Oh, no, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. There are a ton of opportunities out there. I'm going to go a little bit off script here because Tracy brought up something that I'm interested to get everybody else's perspective on. There is a legitimate concern from a lot of people that there is the potential that AI could either replace and or potentially eliminate the need for a lot of jobs. I'm interested to get you all's perspective on that take, and maybe just your general opinion on whether you think that that's, legitimate concern.
I think AI is not going to take your job. I think people who don't use AI are the ones who are at the highest risk. So as long as you are staying up to date in the know of what AI tools are available and you're starting to use them and you're learning how to use them, I think you're going to be ahead of the curve. There is something that I don't think we discussed a lot that I wanted to mention also as well. There is an ethical component to this as well. There's not a lot of transparency currently in the AI market as to where is this data coming from and how are we obtaining it. And one horrific case that I kind of have to mention is when the AI tools were coming out, there's again a difference between generative and discriminative AI models. When the data was being trained on these specific AI models, there were people in Africa who were literally pushing a yes or no button. It's called RLHF, reinforcement learning with human feedback, right? So these people were watching beheadings, they were watching, different types of things. So when the tools are being developed and we're putting these prompts, and we're making sure that these tools are not returning back horrific / things that are going to harm people, right? Someone has to train those tools. So there is an ethical component right now that we really have to consider around not just are you losing your jobs, but who is training these models and how are people being treated while we're creating this model. There's also a component of energy consumption. These data centers are massive and they're using an insane amount of power in order to run these data centers. And so there's a lot that we have to consider as humanity, right, worldwide on, yes, we need to develop these AI tools, but are we developing them humanely, really? And what are we doing, what are we ruining or destroying in the process as we're creating these tools?
Oh yeah, agreed, 100%. We were talking about, do we think AI will take our jobs? Well, I think if you don't educate yourself, my personal opinion, I would promise you, yes, AI will take your job. If you just take the ostrich in the sand, I hope that's not like too strong or anything, but it's gonna take your job. That's my opinion. And that's why I would just, as we keep saying, just learn about it, educate yourself. Don't wait for somebody to tell you. Take initiative yourself.
And if I may say, it's already taken jobs. If you've been to a McDonald's speaker and you go to the drive-thru and then there's a voice that comes on and it's like, wait a minute, that's not quite human. It is AI taking your order at McDonald's. So just think about it. That employer had an employee who called in that day and said, I can't come to work today, or he or she couldn't hire someone to do it. They hired AI. So AI comes on and it says, what do you want to order today? And then I always have like a weird order, but it gets it right. Okay, I don't know if you all have seen that. This is around town. There's this little egg thing that rolls around parking lots. Anyone seen it? You have? Okay, so I saw it in a parking lot. So it's shaped like this. It's like an egg and it's rolling around. It's like, what on earth is that? It was a security guard powered by AI. There was no person in there. It's like a little robot going up and down every aisle of the parking lot, going around the perimeter of the parking lot. So here's what happened. That employer saved $75,000 a year because they did not have to hire a security guard. And that little AI robot will not call in sick. It will not be distracted on its phone, and it's going to go to work every single day. But guess what? A human being had to turn it on. A human being had to program it. A human being has to look at all of those cameras and monitor what the robot is seeing. So will AI take jobs? Yes, it has. Look at warehouse workers. Spanx has a whole, and all of the warehouses have these little robots, these humanoids, and they're picking up and doing stuff. So AI has already taken jobs. Like we've all said, the key is making sure it doesn't take yours. So use it, embrace it, so that your job is not the one that's replaced. So make yourself invaluable where it's impossible for it to replace you.
And I just You touched on something briefly too. AI is also creating a lot of jobs. Remember that as well. It's as she said, somebody has to build the robot, somebody has to maintain it, somebody has to test it, and those are new jobs. So as, you know, going back onto my soapbox about educating yourself, by doing that, you will prepare yourself for new jobs that we haven't even imagined yet. It's still going. It's going to create new jobs. So yeah, that's the way to prepare yourself for, you know, to be successful in this new, I guess, AI age. Is that what we're calling it?
The age of AI.
Yeah, that's how you become successful in that. And being able to adapt. And it sounds scary, but I don't know. I don't think that part is that scary. I think the scary part is not knowing. It's when you don't know and you don't understand. That's what's scary, at least to me.
Can I say one more thing?
Oh, no, absolutely.
Okay, my best friend lives in Canada, and AI was here before it was there. And she's a technical writer by trade. And I said, hey, are you embracing it? She said, no way, no how, I hate it. It's going to replace, you know, jobs in my industry. It's going to replace my other, my fellow writers. She said, no way, no how. So, and I had to remind her, you're already using AI. If you do Netflix and the YouTube, those suggestions are AI. As a writer, if you're using spell check and Grammarly, you're already using it. But here's how she got an unexpected job out of AI. So people there weren't necessarily, when it finally got there, people didn't know how to use the tool. So they were writing content that was horrible. So as a technical writer, she got a job of fixing that content that was poorly written. So the AI created content, they just copied and pasted it. It wasn't good. So as a technical writer, she had to go in and tweak it, fix it, make it accurate, and make it work. So someone who doesn't believe in AI, she still had an opportunity for a job in the industry.
I actually want to add another example that I think is great. As we talked about ethics a little bit, when these tools are getting developed, they used to be only developed by software developers. Again, very male-dominated industry, and they finally figured out that if we're trying to refine these models to make them more, not just ethically aware, but definitely prevent discrimination, they're starting to involve ethicists. They're starting to involve social workers, for example. There's a criminal system, not a criminal system, an AI tool that would predict the recidivism rate of an offender. So now they're involving more, again, real humans into the research and development teams for these AI tools, along with software developers, so that we get a full perspective of what these tools need to look out for from a discrimination perspective, from a, you know, again, ethics and abuse of humans perspective, from just various different angles. So finally, that's happening. It was not happening in the beginning of the development of these tools, but a lot of people are getting involved in those type of careers as well. So what would not normally be traditionally, you know, an AI career, these people are now getting engaged in these companies as well, which is great.
Oh, no, absolutely. And now that we only have a couple of minutes left, I guess I wanted to wrap up with the final question, pretty much just segueing into the conversations we've already been having. Tracy, both you and Lulu alluded to it as far as just new opportunities that are coming up with AI every day, both in the literature space and then both in legal. Are there any other opportunities that you foresee in the future or that you've kind of seen along your way as AI has continued to advance? And feel free to do it from both a personal and business perspective. I think everybody would be interested to hear.
I really hope that, again, this kind of sphere of AI continues to really pay attention to how it's going to affect us as humanity. Personally, where I would want it to help me a lot is I want a robot to clean my house and fold my laundry and, you know, do all the stuff that I really do not want to do, because this is a super optimistic mindset that I have when it comes to AI. I think opportunities on a personal perspective is, especially I see that again in capitalistic societies where we're so forced to working constantly all the time. My hope is that these AI tools will actually give us the time and the space to start spending more time with our families, more time more leisure time, I should say. And again, that's a very optimistic perspective on life, but that's what I'm hoping these AI tools do for us as a whole.
You see that blank look on my face. Anyway, so the future. AI is the future. I have a couple, 2.5 grandkids, and one of my granddaughters in high school, and her high school said no AI. So we all know AI is not going anywhere. It is the future. So the goal is, how do we get schools on board? And I had an opportunity to work with a school district at an AI summit. And also, I don't know if you all are familiar with We Code KC. I've had an opportunity to do a program with them and to work with them to help young people learn, from my perspective, how to use the tools safely. And we know some of the dangers that young people face dealing with AI, the exploitation, sexploitation, and all of the dangers. So I'm saying, if we get the kids educated on how to use them properly, and teachers can do this and tell them to show their work or whatever, but you can't ban it. And so as far as future opportunities, every single person in this room now can be an AI czar. So that means for whatever organization, for your family, you can be the person who is educating them. Stop the fear. Everyone, some people are afraid of it. Some people think it is the devil incarnate. AI is here. So to be the one in your family or your organization saying, here's a good way to use it. You know, here are resources to use it because it's going to be the future. And then also, here are some safety things that you need to be aware of. This is where you talk about the voice deepfakes, the video deepfakes. Here's where you warn them about the social engineering, the emails that look great and that are perfectly written now. So you'll be the person who educates those around you about generative AI, how to use it in a safe way, how cyber criminals are using it. So be that person, just be an advocate for it, because it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think where I would like to see more opportunities would be in opportunities for education and to learn new things. I guess that's something I really like. So, I mean, I used the example earlier, just improving how to write in French, and I've come such a long way with learning with an AI tool, you know, how to correct my grammar and everything, and it's been amazing. I would say, so I actually read an article the other day from Salesforce saying that only about 15% of the workforce has the tools they need, or has the competence to use AI tools. 15%. And so I would say that would be where the opportunities would be to in the areas of educating yourself. And there are so many free tools and resources you can use. Some of my favorites are Free Code Camp. I love Free Code Camp. It's a site. They also have a YouTube channel, where you can like watch projects and they can walk you through like how to build these projects, how to build prompts. I also, Salesforce, plug for Salesforce. They have Trailhead, which is a free online learning platform, and they're really big in AI because, as I said, I read that article from Salesforce, and they're addressing that skills gap not only in their company but in tech in general. And so there are so many just free opportunities for you to educate yourself, and it's, yeah, that's what I would say.
Oh man, this was great, and I guess I kind of wanted to end off on the opportunities front with opening up the floor to the panelists or the audience to see if anybody had any questions just in general. Lulu, I don't know if you want to pass the mic.
Oh, I can talk really loud. This is more for Ljupka. Just legally, like I feel like I was thinking of like we're setting new precedents with generative AI and chat stuff and everything. So like, I feel like I remember a time when like, you know, cell phones and like cyberbullying, like we didn't know how to prosecute cyberbullying because it never happened before. And so I guess, you know, you're already seeing like court cases come in that like maybe there hasn't been a decision, but I guess what do you see as far as like precedents for like legally new laws being made against AI crime?
That's a great question, thank you. Because we didn't mention that. There's a website called rails.legal. that will literally give you every single AI decision that's come out in the US court system. And it's the best resource ever. So anything that is AI related, you will see all the, from federal, state to local level. It's really a great resource to research into that. From a not a governance, but from a regulation perspective, Colorado already has an AI Act. There's a presidential executive order that's out there. There are, I mentioned the EU Act already, the CCTA, which is the California Privacy Act, is already out there. There's a GDPR, which is also the European Privacy Act. Are we way behind? Absolutely yes. But there are already there's already a lot of legislation that's coming out worldwide, honestly. And they're all really targeting mostly from the perspective of we don't want AI tools to be used for abuse. What does that mean? Abuse of hacking for cyber criminals. So there's the EU Act, for example, and it's very 900 pages, right? But they actually have like a step-by-step kind of assessment of like, you know, I think they have like 5 different categories. So if you are planning to develop an AI tool, these are the guidelines that you need to use in order for us not to ban you completely and not to approve your AI tool. What's also great about the EU AI Act is even though it's only in the EU, because these AI tools are being used worldwide, they're kind of being the trailblazer of we're going to protect the world. Because if I'm developing an AI tool and US legislation is telling me that I can't, what prevents me from moving to the Philippines and developing that tool there? But they have a different perspective on it, and so it's great that, again, this legislation is coming out, and they're really trying hard to keep up with all the new developments, especially, we haven't even mentioned agentic AI. So agents are coming out now as well, so they're going to have to, again, come up with legislation for that. But I am hopeful that more and more, not just the US, but more countries are going to start addressing these issues. Again, at this point, it's a very skeleton basic, let's try not to abuse people with these tools, but they are going to develop into more so that people do feel protected. And the example that you gave on cyberbullying, I think even schools are starting to come out with these, their own regulations as to, from a sexual harassment perspective. There are kids who have created deep fakes on videos of other teenagers, so parents are getting involved. So I think we're all kind of starting to realize that this, as great as these tools are, there needs to be safeguards and protections in place, and I'm grateful that that's happening.
Can I say something really quickly about the school part of it? The school district that I had an opportunity to talk to the teachers, I was saying that we all worry about these cyber criminals who are sitting behind their computer, pretending to be a 14 or 16-year-old boy or girl, tricking the teenagers. But what Lulu just said is something that is startling. Teenagers are using it on each other. They're doing the deepfake, the impersonations, and they're putting the faces on inappropriate bodies, and they're doing the sexploitation. If you tell anyone, I'm going to, if you don't do what I ask you to do, I'm going to tell your parents and I'm going to embarrass you. And that's causing teenagers to commit suicide. But one thing that I had to warn is the kids think it's cute and funny. You put a face on an inappropriate body. What happens if this is your classmate? What happens if that classmate is underaged? And now this student who thought it was cute and funny could be in trouble for this underage crime, porn, whatever, and that impacts their life. So education is so important when we talk about the legalities of it all.
I was just going to say there's revenge porn laws now countrywide in the US. Not in all states, but majority of the states, so at least thankfully we have that.
So I had a quick question. I know that AI, like the product is the data, whenever you like ChatGPT, when you type it in. But my question is, let's say you copy paste onto a Word doc to rewrite it. Is ChatGPT like, I don't know, tracking, or is there something in there, like maybe you copy pasted that, fixed it up, and then you copy pasted that, sent it to an email, and sent it to somewhere? Like, is it, do you know, like, is it being tracked or anything?
ChatGPT is not going to track that. If you're at a company and this is your company computer, your company is going to have, again, that metadata that I mentioned, that unique digital fingerprint. So if you want to keep your logs of ChatGPT, I think there's different settings. From my understanding, you can do 30 days, you can do, so you can keep your log of your conversation with ChatGPT. But again, when it comes down to you're now pasting that information into a Word document, the Word document is the one who has that digital fingerprint. It's not ChatGPT. Now, hopefully I answered your question.
It did, thank you.
And one thing to know is that the AI detectors are not accurate. Not yet, they're not accurate. There are a few that are better than others, but if you look at the headlines recently in the news, you'll see that companies like schools are flunking people, students, saying you use AI, and they're saying no, we didn't. So there are a lot of stories about people creating content and being accused of using AI because the detector said that it was 100% or 80%, whatever AI written. Those are not accurate, so there's just going to be a lot of trouble behind that. So as far as being able to tell whether or not it's AI produced, not right now, not yet. But some people, there are some keywords that AI uses over and over.
I just wanted to add, Google is putting out an initiative to self-govern in the form of watermarking their products. So there is a way, and again, it's not been implemented with all AI tools, but they are working on legislation right now where if you do have a product, I don't know, a code or anything like that, that there will be a digital watermark system where it will actually be able to immediately track it back to whatever tool you used and whatever output that came out. It just hasn't happened yet.
Any other questions?
Doesn't the AI company itself track all, or like keep a record of every prompt that you make? Like they keep data on all of that? Like if you put every prompt that you put in, like the company itself keeps track of all that?
You're talking about like ChatGPT or something like that?
Itself.
Yes.
Like even if you don't go back, like if you don't, like in your settings, if you don't say, I want to keep all 6 months of every prompt that you made, like the company itself, ChatGPT keeps it, right?
So if you look at their kind of privacy policy and their copyright policy and whatever, like you can actually click on their individual policies for each specific tool, and it'll tell you exactly what they're keeping and for how long. Okay. I think the important part to also remember when it comes to generative AI, that's something that we didn't mention, is it works as what they call a black box system. So the example that I always give to people is, let's say you're driving a Tesla, and it's a self-driving Tesla, and this vehicle gets into a car accident. In a regular car accident, there is an actual black box in your car that will show at the time of impact how fast you were driving, whether you pushed on the brakes, whether an airbag deployed or not. A black box system for a generative AI tool does not have that transparency in order to track how this Tesla actually made that decision to brake or not brake, which is again the challenge right now that we have from a regulation perspective, because who is responsible for that? Like who is legally liable for that decision, right? And so it's again tricky using AI tools because you don't know how this AI tool actually made that decision to generate whatever content. So you have to also keep that in mind, so that it's kind of a black box of not knowing. And there are technologies right now that are coming out that will be able to retrieve that information, but they're just not there yet.
And keeping in mind that everything you put in that tool, it's learning from it. So anything and everything, that's why it's important not to put proprietary information, not to put personal information, not to put company information, because it is retaining it and it is learning. So everything that it outputs comes from the internet. It comes from someone who has entered something or who has created something that's out there. So its memory is long. So we're teaching it.
And when it comes to data transparency, the argument that these AI development tools or companies are making is that, like, this is our proprietary product, this is our algorithm, we're not going to disclose this information to you, like how we came up to this decision. But again, the push for data transparency is only increasing in the AI world. And I think we're going to get there. We're just not there yet.
Are there any other questions? All right, well, thank you again, everyone. Just kind of wanted to wrap it up by showing once again appreciation for everybody who came out tonight to have this discussion. Again, AI is just really an interesting space, a lot to learn. And so my hope is that you get a chance to kind of continue the conversation afterwards. And with that being said, just a quick plug again to Kansas City Women in Technology. We have a lot of great events coming out in 2025, so definitely stay tuned. Again, if you're antisocial like myself, we have a Slack QR code over there if you want to stay connected or just reach out to any one of us. Again, appreciate all of you for joining us for this 2024 season, and stay tuned. We're looking forward to seeing you next year. And quick plug for all of the different treats and snacks we have. Feel free to stay, have conversation.
Thanks again for Julie and Completely Legal for sponsoring us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
And thank you to our panelists, and thank you for everyone for coming out.